Are sticker charts abusive? Have you been hearing lately that any techniques that have any aspect of behavior modification in them are abusive towards children? Does this confuse you because maybe you had sticker charts in school and school was your safe place? That was the place you got away from the abusive people. Are you wondering about how we work with our children's behavior and yet we don't want to be abusive or coercive or controlling? Is this kind of thing worry you? Hi, I'm Dr. Robin Koslowitz, YouTube's post-traumatic parenting expert. Today we're going to talk about behavior. Why the word behavior, why ABA therapy, why the idea behind behavior analysis and behavior modification feels abusive, and what to do about that, and how to incorporate that information into our parenting plans. But first, if you're a post traumatic parent and this is something that you've been struggling with, if this is something you want to know more about, please click subscribe below so you never miss another episode. And please comment on this video and let me know what you think, because this is a hot topic. It is somewhat confusing. So, first of all, let's understand the idea behind behavior modification. Let's understand it from a theoretical perspective. And this is a difficult video for me to shoot because I've been treating some post-traumatic parents who themselves experienced ABA therapy or behavior modification therapy as children. Either they're neurodiverse, they're on the autism spectrum in some way, or they were in a school that used a lot of behavior modification techniques to control the students, or their home was very authoritarian and controlling. So now, but then on the other hand, children sometimes need to be taught certain skills, and how do you teach and how do you use it? So this is a hard video for me to shoot because I believe that we can actually separate out two aspects of behavior modification. There's the why behavior happens, and then there's the what to do about it parts. And those two have been lumped together. So the idea that sometimes behavior is reinforced by certain contingencies is probably true. It's probably true of human nature. And yet, therefore, we alter certain contingencies, we change certain things, we make certain things rewarding and other things less rewarding in order to change people. That part can be problematic. But we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We do want to understand why humans behave the way they do. And we want that to inform certain aspects of our parenting, but we don't want to do that in a manner that is coercive or controlling. So this is complicated, and there's a lot of people with a lot of very strong feelings, particularly about ABA therapy. So first I want to contextualize myself. I am not an ABA therapist, not trained in ABA. I'm not a board certified behavior analyst. I know a lot about behavior from like cognitive behavioral therapy and from dialectical behavioral therapy, from having been a special education teacher, from having worked within special education schools and other types of settings. But I come from a trauma-informed lens, and there's one crucial thing. So for those of you out there who feel like I had ABA therapy and it felt abusive to me, I hear you and I get it. I'm not an ABA therapist and I'm not an apologist for ABA. I just think there are things we can learn from behavior theory that can inform us without using the applications that have been coercive. I had a very intense conversation with a patient of mine who's been processing the trauma that some of her ABA therapy has left her with. And one thing she said is, really, what ABA therapy has done is it has taught me how to mask successfully. It has allowed me to mask my symptoms. So when I don't want to make eye contact with people, I now know how to force myself to make eye contact with people. And I am repeating this with her permission because she wants this information out there in the world, because this is something she's making sense of herself. It has taught her how to be in large crowds, even when the voices are loud or jarring or annoying, and manage that, manage social anxiety, manage certain situations where she just wants to run away, but she's masking. She said, so I'm very good at masking now. And no one knows the level of distress I'm in, which makes my trauma worse. On the other hand, so I asked her, I said, going back to little you, when you were a little kid, do you feel you needed those skills or you didn't? So she said that some of those skills are skills she really needed, and she's glad she has them. She's really glad she knows how to manage in the world independently. And she thinks had she not been given intensive therapy when she was a little kid, she wouldn't. And she's very happy to be very independent. She's independent enough to pay for her own psychotherapy as an adult and to be a parent herself and to live her life, to be contemplating becoming a parent herself, and to be living her life. But at the same token, the way it was communicated to her felt very abusive. It felt like what she was being told is, there is something wrong with you and we're going to fix it. And we're going to reprogram your brain because now your brain is abnormal and we're going to make you normal. She said, first of all, that wasn't true. Even after many, many years of ABA therapy and all sorts of therapies, she doesn't enjoy, for example, social interaction, and she's never going to, and that's totally okay, and that's totally fine. All she's learned how to do is mask. And while the masking part is a useful skill, it was a lie that she's going from being abnormal and deficient in some way to being like normal, because she is still exactly the same 9-year-old girl that she was, who does not like making eye contact and does not like crowded environments and has strong sensory needs. That's always going to be true of her. So the ABA therapists who made it sound like they're going to unprogram and reprogram her brain, simply untrue. And they didn't need to, because there was nothing wrong with her to begin with. Now, were there skills she needed to learn? So what she would have preferred was to be told, there are some skills you don't have that make navigating the world easier. I would like to give you those skills. If you work together with me, I will give you those skills. Now, those are just skills that are called masking. And sometimes masking is a useful thing. And do you want to learn how to do that? If you do want to learn how to do that, I'm here to teach it to you. She said, had she been approached that way, she absolutely would have been very happy, because yeah, without being made to feel like she's some sort of a freak and that there's something wrong with her, those were skills she wanted to have. She did want to be able to handle life in her classroom more easily. She did want to make some friends. She did want to be able to handle crowded rooms and learning how to use those skills. But she said then what she would have wanted was an adult to say to her, you have the skill, now you are free to use them or not use them as you see fit. It's about you. And this is what I always say about using any form. And again, I am just repeating one person's experience with her permission, stating the words that she said I can state, because she wants this said to the world. So with that in mind, with her experience in mind, with other very similar experiences that I have heard in mind, I am going to say this. When we use any sort of information from behavior theory to help us understand why behavior occurs, why are slot machines so addictive? Probably because of inconsistent reinforcement. Why are certain tasks easier to complete than others? Probably because they're intrinsically motivating. Why are certain habits hard to break? Right? Probably because of the way the contingencies are stacked. The reward you get for completing that task versus the reward you get for pushing it off, right? The immediate reinforcement of, I really need to write my term paper, but Netflix, right? The immediate reward of like, right now, this is fun, can sometimes outweigh the long-term reward of like going to bed on time because I handed in my term paper and now I have enough time to have a good night's sleep. Yeah, in 2 weeks, that's going to feel lousy, but right now, Netflix. When we can understand ourselves, especially based on that, fabulous. That's great because, yeah, this is probably accurate about how human brains learn skills. This is probably accurate about how humans can sometimes be, sort of trained by, like, big food or by like big entertainment into like putting off their values and goals for the sake of short-term gain. And this is how Netflix makes money off your late turn paper. 100%. So when I can use that system to understand myself, when I can say, oh, you know what? If I do habit stacking, if I say I really like this kind of brain rotting show on Netflix, and I really don't love running on my treadmill, but here's the deal, I make myself a promise. I get to watch that show on the treadmill. I'm using a lot of principles from behavior modification to enact something in service of my values of staying fit and staying healthy and doing some self maintenance on my body and keeping myself healthy. So I'm using information that I learned that is accurate for myself. But here's the key thing, and this is what you want to think about as a parent if you're incorporating any sort of behavior modification into your parenting, like any sort of sticker chart or anything like that, because I am not going to say sticker charts are abusive. Coercive and controlling sticker charts can be abusive. Using sticker charts to shame and blame and force and coerce a child, that's abusive. So what do I mean by that? When we're having some sort of a plan where we're going to reward a child for tolerating short-term discomfort in exchange for a long-term goal or value, and we say, you know what, because you're doing that and that's hard, I'm going to give you stickers. And every time you do that thing, like you hang up your briefcase the minute you come in, instead of throwing it down on the floor, you hang up your backpack, or you hang up your coat, or you do one homework assignment before dinner, right? One of those things where I'm teaching you delayed gratification. I'm teaching you how to handle the like, but I want a cookie right now versus but my body really needs a carrot right now. I'm teaching you how to deal with that, and the child consents. So consent is huge here, because if I say to my friends, let's run a marathon together. We've always wanted to run a marathon or a half marathon or a 5K or whatever. And I know what happens when life takes over. So here's the thing. We're going to be each other's accountability buddies. So we're going to go on our training runs together. And every night I'm going to text you all of my wins for preparing for the race or for just the completion of the task. And you're going to text me yours, because when you text me like, I ate all the food I intended to eat today and I went for my morning run, and I text you back, yay emojis, you feel rewarded, and then you're going to do it again tomorrow. And when I text you that, I feel rewarded and I'm going to do that tomorrow. We consented to do that. We're not shaming and blaming each other. What? You didn't eat quinoa for breakfast? What's wrong with you? You're so lazy. You're never going to, right? Like, no. We're not shaming and blaming, but we're mutually delighting in each other's achievements. That's behavior modification. Because if not for knowing that my friend is waiting for me to go on a run at 6 in the morning, I'm not getting up at 6 in the morning, because the snooze button is just more attractive. So I'm using principles from behavior modification to help myself get towards a goal, but I consented. So if you sit down with a kid and you say, mornings are kind of hectic. We really need to learn how to create a better morning routine. Do you like it when the mornings are so hectic and then everybody's yelling and you forget important things, and then you don't get to have the hairstyle you like, and then you don't get to have the breakfast you like? And again, we're talking now about a neurotypical child. We've moved away from anything having to do with neurodiversity. That's a separate conversation. Do you like when mornings are like that? And the kid's like, no, I really don't. I don't like those mornings. And you say to the child, should we create a plan where you get rewarded because you're going to do something really hard, which is think about the future today? And the kid says, yeah, I want that. Yeah, because like we can do a sticker chart and then I can get this like great Lego friend set. Hooray! So I say, fabulous. So here's what we're going to do. When you lay out your clothes for school the night before, you can put a sticker on the chart. And when you pack your backpack the night before, you can put a sticker on the chart. And when you lay out your breakfast, whatever those things are. Obviously, if it's an age-appropriate skill, let's say we're talking to like an 11-year-old, right? So the child's like, yeah, I want to do that. I get this. Time management is important. And maybe we gamified it. We watched the We watched the Sesame Street Cookie Monster video where Cookie Monster wants a cookie, but he's learning how to wait, and it's really cute. It's to the tune of Gangnam Style. Me want it, but me wait. And we learned that idea that, the kids who didn't eat the marshmallow in the marshmallow experiment had better lives later on. Do you want to develop that skill? And my kid's like, yes, I do. I'm all in. I need to learn time management. You're right. My mornings will be so much better. And then you'll have time to make the hairstyle I want. This is great. Fabulous. That's not abusive because of that crucial ingredient of consent. This is something that the child wants. If you're doing that, and we have to ask ourselves, what's the function of this? If as a parent, I am doing that because I want to make my mornings easier, that can have elements of coercive control in it. Sometimes it's like, look, it's harm avoidance, because if I yell at my kids, it's gonna go bad. I have too much PTSD and I have a trigger temper, and so then that's different because you're trying to avoid harm to your child, and maybe doing that plan comes from a different place. But what we're really looking for with anytime we're trying to teach a child a social and emotional competency is buy-in from the child. And sometimes the child's not going to buy in, and then it's like, you know what, then we're not working on that skill right now. Maybe you don't want to learn how to be more social right now. Maybe you're fine not going to birthday parties. And you know what? It's my anxiety saying that you need to get more social. If you don't care, if you're like, Mom, fine. I have 2 best friends and that's good for me. I don't want more invitations to parties. Then that's about me and my anxiety about my kid being left out and not about my kid. So when we're using principles from behavior modification for the sake of teaching a child something that the child themselves wants to learn, and there's consent and there's buy-in and it's not coercive. And most importantly, there's one crucial ingredient that we didn't talk about yet, that we are completely leaving out. The most important thing I noticed that you might realize that I'm leaving out is, what about punishments? What about aversiveness? What about consequences? So here's the thing, okay? Let's understand something. First of all, it is 100% abusive to say that I need to cause another human pain in order to teach them something. There's no justification for that. First of all, pain doesn't teach you anything other than to freeze or to shut down. Second of all, I think people really misunderstand the difference between a natural consequence that we sometimes have to enact as part of boundaries, right? Like if you're jumping very wildly on the trampoline and you could fall off and get hurt, we're going to get off the trampoline now. That's not a punishment. I'm not trying to make you feel pain. You don't want to get off the trampoline. You're not going to be happy about getting off the trampoline, but I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm actually trying to help you. There's a boundary around the play, around trampoline play. We can jump this high, but not this high. We can do these kind of flips, but not these kind of flips. We can jump wildly when there's no smaller child on the trampoline, but not when there is a smaller child on the trampoline. Those are boundaries. This yes, this no, that's a boundary. This is acceptable, this is unacceptable, is a boundary. When we go off the trampoline, then I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, not trying to make you feel pain. I'm simply saying, yeah, we can't play on the trampoline right now. And if I continue by berating you, you know why you had to get off the trampoline? Because you weren't a good boy. You jumped, and you jumped wildly. So that's why you had to come off the trampoline. That lecture is a punishment, right? Yelling. Think about in laboratory experiments, okay? And I don't want to trigger anybody here, but in like laboratory experiments where they're experimenting on animals to show how aversion works, you know the thing they use a lot? A loud tone, like a harsh tone. Think of like the worst alarm clock ever, right? So if a rat pulls one lever, he gets a food pellet. And if he pulls another lever, this loud like sound comes like screeching over the monitors and it hurts his ears. Guess what? The rat's going to pull the yellow lever and not the green lever, right? And how quickly will the rat learn that every 3 times he pulls the yellow lever, a food pellet comes out, but the 4th time the food pellet comes out and then also the screeching sound comes out. So the rat learns, I'm only going to pull the lever 3 times, not 4 times. Yelling is a punishment because yelling hurts your ears and sounds loud and scary and hurts your nervous system. So you take the kid calmly off the trampoline and you say, I guess you chose not to play with the trampoline today. We can't jump on the trampoline, and then you stop talking. There's an acronym in IFS therapy, internal family systems therapy. Wait, why am I talking? Which is like when we as a therapist are talking too much in a session. Guess what? Wait, why am I talking when I apply a consequence? I don't need to belabor the point. I don't need to talk. I certainly don't need to yell. I can just take the kid off the trampoline, take them in from the park, take away the ice cream that they're throwing at someone, right? I can do all of that without the lecture. The lecture doesn't teach anything, doesn't do anything at all. Maybe 3 days later, when we're all calm and cozy, and we can say, remember what happened last week when we went to the playground and we had to go home early because everybody got wild? How can we plan for that not to happen next time? You notice I'm not lecturing. You notice I'm not saying anything mean. You notice I'm not sounding angry. We're just going to make a plan for next time. That's how I'm teaching the lesson that the natural consequence still exists. That's not a punishment. A punishment is like, you naughty kittens, you lost your mittens. Now you shall have no pie. What does having no pie have to do with losing your mittens? You lost your mittens. We might not be able to go outside now and play in the snow. Although if you lost them, you lost them. It's not really your fault. But I don't know, if you purposely threw away your mittens, I guess now we can't play in the snow. I feel so bad because the snow looks like so much fun to play with. What does it have to do with pie? That's what a punishment is, right? A punishment is I am doing something to cause you discomfort or pain, theoretically, to teach you a lesson. That's going to be more likely than not, you're edging into abuse territory, especially depending on what the punishment is. But that's very different than a natural and logical consequence for a behavior. Completely different, like two completely opposite situations, right? In that type of situation, so in a parenting plan, this is why if you want to have a sticker chart because you're teaching a certain skill and your child doesn't use the skill, don't take a sticker off the chart. That's a punishment. It's simply, oh, well, today you chose not to use that skill. Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow you have a chance to use it again. Don't take away stickers. We don't take away rewards. Like, I rewarded you with that. You got this Lego set because you did all the things. You laid out your clothes the night before, and you laid out your food the night before, and you filled your backpack the night before, and you had it all next to the front door, and you were able to make the bus. This is great. By the way, I'm not rewarding the making the bus part. I'm rewarding the skills you used part. And now you got you got Mia's play set. You got Mia's treehouse. Yay, you. And then the next day you miss the bus, I don't take away the treehouse. That's a punishment. And there's no point. It teaches nothing but that when big humans get frustrated, they sometimes do illogical things. That doesn't teach you anything. We have to be very clear. So the why behavior happens part, absolutely, we can learn from it. The what to do about it part, the part of behavior modification that comes from ABA therapy that lands as abusive, that part maybe not, right? We have to be very careful. Doesn't mean we can't use effective teaching tools to teach our kids things. We absolutely can. But punishment doesn't teach anything. Or if it does teach something, it teaches something at the cost of a rupture in the relationship that we might have a hard time repairing. So is it worth it? And punishment usually comes with anger, and it usually comes with being scary, and it usually comes with yelling and loud voices and things that really do shut down your nervous system and make it difficult for your nervous system to learn. So punishment doesn't teach anything in the way that we think it does. Because maybe in that experiment where the rat pulls the lever and he hears the loud tone, the rat learns not to pull the lever, but at what cost to his nervous system? That rat, we've actually know this, that there are animals that are used in scientific research, or we're going back to like the 1970s, that then that rat wasn't able to be used in more scientific experiments because it basically was showing signs of PTSD. It was shut down. It was not responding to the world the way a typical newborn rat would. So that rat can't be used for future experiments, which means that rat was harmed or damaged in some ways. Again, we're going back to the 70s. I never personally did any animal experimentation or research. My research was all on like positive parenting practices and all sorts of fun things like how do we use play in our parenting and fun stuff like that. But just like looking at those research studies and reading about them, that's what we learned. So punishment might be effective if all that matters is changing this one behavior at this one time. But is that all that matters when it comes to parenting a child that we want to have a relationship with for the rest of their lives? Think about it, right? I once read on social media that, the test of good parenting is not your kid's behavior and their compliance and how well they behave in Target when they want an ice pop and you say no and they say, okay, mommy. That's not the sign of good parenting. You know the sign of good parenting? When your kid no longer needs you for food and shelter and clothing and, rides to like their best friend's house. When your kid no longer needs you for that, what's their relationship like with you then? Are your adult children still in your lives? That's the measure of good parenting. Compliance is not. So yeah, is punishment effective? Depends, effective at what? So I'm saying, sure, we can learn from how behavior works. We can learn certain truths and we can incorporate those truths into our parenting plans, but not in a coercive or controlling fashion. If you do it in a coercive or controlling fashion, if you incorporate punishment, especially illogical punishment or harsh punishment into that, yeah, that's abusive. The sticker chart to instill the habit of brushing your teeth, and the kid understands that, like, he doesn't like when the dentist has to fill his cavities and he does want healthy teeth. Maybe we watched a Daniel Tiger episode about having healthy teeth and we're going to do that and the kid consents. It's not abusive. If it's done wrong, if it's shaming and blaming, right? If we're taking stickers off the chart, yeah, that's abusive. I did some research on this and this really disturbs me. There are still ABA facilities now, today, that use, I heard this, so I don't have it verified, but I've looked on some forums and some people were saying that their child experiences that are still using like electric shocks, mild, not like dangerous ones, as aversive training with kids who are, on, like severely on the autism spectrum, to somehow train them in various behaviors. I'm kind of shocked by that. If that's really true, if there are really ABA facilities using electric shocks, let's make no mistake about it, that is absolutely abusive. I cannot see a situation in which an electric shock could be anything but aversive. The only time I could see perhaps having something, but I would rather use an alarm or something like that, would be like a child who wanders in the middle of the night and could get himself into dangerous situations, having some sort of an electrical electrical lock on the door that like sounds a loud alarm so the parents can come and make sure that, nobody's wandering onto a busy highway at 2 a.m. And even that, when we're in a situation like that, I kind of feel this is not something that I have expertise in. Even something like that, I kind of feel there are probably better alternatives. But the thought that there really are special needs programs that use electric shocks today, I hope that's not true. Because if that's true, if my kid was in a program like that, my kid would be out of a program like that in 5 seconds flat, the instant I heard that, and there would probably be a lawsuit. So I really hope that that's not the case. But so let's just be very, very, very clear. Using a sticker chart in your parenting in a non-coercive way, in a consent-based way, is not abusive. And it can be very effective, especially for small habits like hanging up your backpack or brushing your teeth, or a skill the child themselves really wants to develop. Absolutely. Using consequences in a shaming and blaming manner, you're edging towards abusive territory here. So let's be very clear. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I love realizing that I can use habit stacking to motivate myself to do good things. I absolutely love the reward of celebrating achievements and things like that. I sometimes reward myself straight out. Like I'll use the Pomodoro method when I'm working on my book. I'll write for 10 minutes and then I'll do something fun for 10 minutes to get myself over a hump of like, I have nothing to write and I don't know what to say. And oh my gosh, I'm panicking. Okay, just for 10 minutes and then you get to do something fun. I will use that. And that will be effective for me. I don't want to throw that baby out with the bathwater. But if someone came into me and said, What? You only wrote this amount of pages and not this amount of pages? What's wrong with you, you lazy, incompetent fool? That wouldn't motivate me to write. That wouldn't help me in any way. So let's understand that. Your sticker chart helping your kid brush his teeth, probably not abuse, but maybe examine some of the behavior modification techniques that were used on you in your childhood and see if some of them edge towards coercive or controlling, and see if they still are resonant with your parenting values and if you still want to use them. I hope that clarifies. I hope that helps. Again, this video is talking about parenting neurotypical children. This was not talking about parenting kids on the spectrum. That's its own whole concept and topic that we did not touch on today. But I just wanted to make that clear because so many parents are questioning this premise. If you like today's content, if this is a topic, and this is a complicated topic, if this is a topic that you want to talk about more, please comment below so we can have a conversation about this, our emerging understanding of changing values in parenting. And if you like this content and you want more of this content, please check out at Dr. Kozlowitz Psychology on Instagram. That's where the post-traumatic parenting community hangs out. If you want to know more about cycle breaking and post-traumatic parenting, please check out the Post-Traumatic Parenting podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, the book is going to come out. All of you are contributing with your questions. You are directly informing the book. Thank you all so much for being here. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe below. Like, save, share, send to a friend. You don't know how helpful it is to me when the post-traumatic parenting community grows, one post-traumatic parent at a time. We get it. We've been there. We're post-traumatic parents too. Till next time.